Julia, thanks for joining.
Hi, of course. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm in the studio, which is always like a mellow place to be.
It should be, right? We've been studio mates for a bit now, and it's been so cool seeing you develop in real time, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very firsthand.
It's great being in a space that has other artists like that because you just pop in just for even for a few minutes and see what's going on. And
We used to just pull a lot of all-nighters. We're doing like a different kind of schedule now, but we used to be in here like super late. Yeah.
so we should say, when you say we, meaning you and
Oh,
Jonathan Herrera.
I share a studio with Jonathan Herrera Soto, who's my husband. Yeah.
Jonathan has been on the podcast as well,
Yep.
and you
Yeah.
guys know each other from Minneapolis, is that right?
Yeah, we know each other from Minneapolis.
You didn't go to undergrad there, right?
No, I went to undergrad in New York. I went to SVA.
And then you went to grad school at MICA, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, in Baltimore.
In
Kind of like
Baltimore.
I did like the straight through, like no gap, like
You went straight
undergrad
in,
into grad school. Yeah.
undergrad, grad school. Nice.
Yeah.
And then so after grad school, did you move to Minneapolis?
No, after grad school I moved to Beijing.
Wow.
And I yeah, I lived in Beijing for like 7 months. And I was just there kind of I was teaching English and I was kind of like processing everything from grad school. And then I came back. My mom was like having an operation and I wanted to be like closer to home. So I came back and stayed with her for a bit and kind of like hung out with her and spent time. And then I moved to Philadelphia. And then I moved back to New York and I was in New York for a few years and I was there until kind of like mid 2020. And then I left and I there were some other places, there were more places in between, but then I ended up in Minneapolis in like 2021.
Was it a COVID response in a way?
Kind of. At the time, like during 2020, I had a little studio in like Greenpoint. Um, and I was living in Bushwick and I was in a basement apartment and in the middle of the summer it like flooded. And it was just like it was so brutal. There was like flies coming out of the walls because like things were unsealed. It was just like not a nice situation. So it was kind of like a forced exodus. Um, but it was yeah, it was kind of felt like the time like then because I think that at that point, like my I don't know, my like practice was like feeling more like wheels spinny, just like a lot of like energy, but not a lot of like direction or something. Like I was in the studio like as much as I could be, but I was mostly working and that kind of like time limitation, effort, strain that like New York can kind of like incubate, I think like already didn't feel great. Um, and so leaving was like a little bit just because the apartment became like unlivable, and it was also a little bit because it just felt like a good time to like reset. Yeah.
Classic New York experience, right? You get
Yeah.
some appalling living situation and
Oh
you
yeah.
just gotta leave. What were you doing for work at that time in New York?
I was doing art handling
Mhm.
for like a furniture design gallery and I was doing like retail like returns, which is like a really weird a really weird job. It involves a lot of like sniffing clothes to see if they're if they've been
Sniffing
worn.
clothes, you said?
Yeah. You do a lot of sniffing, which is really strange. And like it's like a vaguely like humiliating kind of you're just like sniffing clothes and seeing if they're too dirty to be resold.
Oh no.
Yeah. Then I was doing like a lot of like kind of pop-up type of stuff. I was drawing on t-shirts a lot then because I had like nights where I didn't have enough energy to get to the studio, but I still wanted to do something, so I started just like using paint markers on shirts and like drawing stuff. And then I would like sell them. So that was kind of like the ways that I was like making money. Maybe I was also doing scenic design. I had like a lot of gig work then.
Right. So freelancing
Yeah.
here and there, and then
Yeah.
moving to Minneapolis, were you able to focus more energy into your formal studio practice then?
Oh yeah, definitely. It Minneapolis was kind of like a crazy, like everything just like worked out really well. Like I mean it's the Midwest. It's got that sort of like less of the pressure cooker kind of like intensity of New York. Um, and like more affordable, more space. I had the most like gorgeous studio. I got it within like, I don't know, a few months of being there, I want to say. Um, and yeah, I got like a really like beautiful teaching job not too long after being there as well. At like an organization called Juxtaposition Arts, which is kind of like a like youth focused like teaching mentorship. They're employed, but they're also learning so that they're being paid basically to like make work and like have sort of like a practice, um, which is like kind of rare and very cool. And then I had my studio as well, and it was just like the right balance in terms of time.
How long were you in Minneapolis before you moved back to New York?
Maybe like 4 or 5 years, something like that.
So what brought you back to New York?
Um, I mean, I think that a bunch of like life things changed, and it just kind of felt like time. I had been like living with someone, and then I wasn't anymore, and it's like more feasible to be somewhere when you have, I think, like a roommate or like I don't know, that kind of cost. I feel like everything I'm saying is just like cost and time. But like it kind of does like boil down to like a lot of that when you're trying to like make time and live as an artist and have like a day job and your practice and like a it's like you're renting multiple spaces and you're I don't know all over the place all the time. And it kind of felt like the thing that I was doing by myself in Minneapolis, I could do in New York. So at that point, I was like why am I my rent kept going up in my studio and it was like why am I still here, I guess.
I guess
Yeah.
everything is negotiation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
I've been thinking about that a lot and everything in your life, how much time, money,
Hmm.
resources, there's the social component. How can you give your studio practice all the ingredients that it needs to thrive
Yeah.
essentially? And you don't really know, you don't really know. You have to just use your best judgment to figure out which way to go with that. It's never going to be perfect, right?
Yeah, no, completely. Um, I think I was like missing the energy and missing like I have a lot of people here. My one of my best friends like had a baby last year. And I was kind of like, dang, it would be cool to be back and to like see the baby grow up and to like be backward. Like I've known people for like 10 years, like plus. Um, and yeah, it just kind of it like worked out really well. Like I found this like sweet spot in Bay Ridge. I took my little cats in my car and drove here and set up, and now everything is like also it feels like meant to be kind of alignment of things.
I really think being an artist is essentially about exchange and communication.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and Jonathan both strike me as real artists in that way. Just the way you move about the world, the way you are connected to your communities, the way you're connected to your work, what you do. There's so
Hmm.
much emphasis now in the culture on product. And
Hmm.
I think we often forget being an artist is really about the process. I think you make objects that are beautiful and that are
Hmm.
accessible essentially as a byproduct of this investment in the process.
Yeah. I feel like the process is like the most accessible way for me to like talk about my work. When people ask me about it, it's kind of like it's the core of it. And I do think in terms of like that we saw a bunch of shows this last weekend. We've been like going out to stuff, and I was seeing like some really incredible paintings and this like super charge of like energy that you get from seeing work that really moves you and like the like you're just like revved to get like back in the studio and like go. And it's like, it's just that kind of firing on all cylinders feeling of like your brain like absorbing like incredible painting. And I think that desire to paint in response to painting and to like kind of have this like conversation or connection that exists in delay somewhat, but like through material and through like that is the connection I think like between artists that is so like beautiful. But it's funny because you don't always like actually have a like verbal conversation, you know?
So what did you see that might have been inspiring?
Oh man, the I feel like the two that like really stood out. We took a bus down to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and we saw the Ellen Birkenblit show at the museum down there. It was stunning, and it just like painting that like makes you like you're sitting there and you're like, this is insane. Like this composition is such if you like they're slow. The other one was the Lisa, I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, like
Hmm.
Yuskavage, um, at Zwerner, which like I have to go back. I went opening night, so it was like really crowded. But like absolutely, absolutely mind-boggling painting. Like it's so beautiful. Um, yeah, but the other show, I think I had more time because it was empty. It was like the last weekend that the show was up, but I don't know. It was like a kind of not like a sleepy town, but a little bit where they did, but there wasn't like a crowd of people there. So I was able to like just sit with the work. It was the whole point of going down there. And we were in the museum for like maybe, I don't know, like 3 hours or something, but like just in that room with those paintings. And I think that painting needs that kind of time to open up and to like unfold because the first read or the first kind of like visual impact um like our brains are kind of like geared to like latch on to that or find that and then but like painting itself is a process that like is embedded with time and like gestures and decisions is embedded in time and all of these kinds of things like layered upon each other. And I think that the slowness that I was able to have in that exhibition like really sat with me like I don't know. But I want to go back and have something like that at the Zorner show because I think it's worth it.
I think if you spend longer than 30 seconds in front of a painting, it's successful. Or if
Yeah.
someone, maybe not you, but if
That's
somebody
such a
can.
low bar.
It
But
is. That's the culture we're in now. It's so
yeah,
fast. It's
no,
so
it's
fast.
that's true. I have friends who work in like film and they're always talking about how things are uh like designed for having it's like two screen like the storyline is like re-articulated like over and over in the most like kind of didactic way because they're assuming that it's a two-screen experience for the audience where they're like on their phone at the same time as they're watching something. And it is that kind of attention like economy kind of thing. Like I get it. But painting, I don't know, painting is like sacred. Like I feel like painting needs time.
It's kind of the only thing that slows me down. I don't know if you've discovered this, that everything else in life feels very rapid, but when you're in the studio and painting, time kind of warps in a sense. When you get into a painting and you're not thinking about checking your phone, your attention is
Yeah.
completely on that painting. And I think it's one of the few things that can hold us attention
Hmm.
wise.
Hmm.
And you're rewarded if you spend more time in front of a painting. And also the amount of time that someone embeds into a painting is felt.
Yeah. No, for sure. Um, yeah, I find that I liken painting, like the act of painting, to what people like must. I mean, I don't know. I guess I can't conflate too much because things are different, but like it is such a like like meditation. Like I think that there's something about painting that brings this kind of stillness where you're so or like I don't know, for me, like you're so focused on the the very moment that things are happening that you're kind of just like really present the entire time. And I do feel that is something I don't really get doing anything else. So I kind of like very much like need painting to kind of like be grounded and be like a functional person in that way. Um But I know that that's not the case for everyone because part of how I work is so like urgent because I'm kind of like in this like race of completing the painting before the water dries from the substrate that like all the decisions are kind of like happening through one long session.
So it's always wet when you're painting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe you could just describe the process a little bit.
Oh yeah. So I work on undressed canvas, like raw canvas, um on the ground. So like the painting is like laying flat on the floor and I'm kind of like crouched on the ground with all my little cups and like water containers and stuff and I'm like mixing my paint in those as I go.
Is it acrylic?
Is acrylic and it's acrylic and ink and dye sometimes.
Mhm.
But like a combination of like all water-based stuff. Um and I wet the canvas before I start. Um and sometimes I just will wet it in sections or sometimes I'll wet the whole thing, but it's I'm working into where the canvas has already been like kind of given like a little sponge bath in water so that it's kind of yeah the whole thing is like always it's always wet and I don't work into it once it's dry.
I was about to ask if you could describe what you mean when you say water is a collaborator, but I
Mm.
think I think you've kind
in
of
my
answered that.
in my yeah yeah I mean in that way like it's dispersing the pigment and it's kind of, depending on like if there's a slight tilt in the floor, if like what the humidity is in the room, um like it's gonna act a little different. How like how much paint versus like water, like if I add an ink to something, it's gonna, it's bringing more liquid, so it's gonna disperse more and it's gonna like push the pigment that's already on the canvas kind of around. So there's this way in which it's making decisions for me or it's acting in a way where I can sort of understand through experience like what might happen or what could happen, but mm, often it really surprises me and it like does things that I don't expect or yeah, like unintentional things that kind of like lead me places I don't know that I would have gone by myself or um it's yeah, it's kind of there's like a resistance in material through that uh way of working, I think because I'm also like not completely in control. And even if I do the straightest line, it won't dry that way because it will have this kind of like dispersing. And yeah.
It has a bit of agency there.
Yeah, and I like that, I think.
You just
Yeah.
reminded me of something Donna Nelson said about control. She said that she's not in control, but she is in contact.
I love that. Yeah. No, completely. Yeah. I don't feel like I mean there's things that like I know I can do because I've done them, but you can do them a bunch of times and then you go to do it again and it's like, oh, it can just like turn out completely differently and you're like baffled.
So it really sounds like this is the area in your work where you can really lean into the process and having that sense of discovery and wonderment. Like you don't really know what it's going to do. Maybe that's one of those things that really keeps you interested.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Because I think like you can do like the same thing over and over and it will like always be different. And it feels kind of like playing in that way or something. Like it feels like inventive or like playful or like I always really enjoy it. Like painting never feels like a laborious thing.
Do you find that you have that all the time? Or is it like, do you warm up into
Mm.
it? And then once you
I
get
mean,
going, it's like that?
There's days when like the thing that I make is kind of like clunky or rusty. Whenever I start a painting, it's always with this feeling, and it's like kind of cheesy because I know I've heard other people say it, but like after I am done painting and any like amount of time goes by, um, I feel like, oh, I've forgotten how. Like I don't know how to paint. Like how am I gonna like learn how to do this again? And that sort of sense of like each time it's new, like it can be like intimidating, um, and kind of like you could end up making a bunch of stuff that doesn't do what you hoped it would or like land, kind of like stick the landing. But in that way, it feels kind of like learning or something. Like it just feels like exercising like the bad stuff out. I don't know if that really answers what you asked though.
Do you feel like you're relearning the process every time you paint, or is it just when you take long breaks?
Um, it's kind of every time, but it's worse when I take a longer break. Like it's like real bad if I take a long break. But like if I painted yesterday and I come in to paint today, I start and I'm like, damn, like what what am I doing? Like I thought I knew how to do this. Like
That
that
sounds
that
like a good
happened to
place to
me.
be.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean I like it, I think, because it keeps you from like I don't know, like
It keeps you from
being
stagnating,
too
right?
sure of being too
Yeah.
sure of yourself, or like you can't repeat yourself in that way because it's just like each time you're like starting over almost. I don't know. And in that I think like it's hard too in the sense that we are like we exist in a market, and so like that sort of awareness of the like external gaze and a desire for like the stability of like a kind of like linear stability over like the course of your practice or something like that. And I think I've been like fairly resistant to that at some points and not as resistant to that at others. But I think that genuine like feeling of it being so like new each time is kind of in conflict to that in general.
So that's kind of the antidote to the emphasis on product for you, it sounds like.
Mm, I guess it's just that I don't actually know what I'm doing a little bit. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's great.
Yeah.
Then you're
Yeah.
just you have to be invested in the process because you're figuring it out. Now thinking about your work, there's a real freshness to it. I can get lost in it. I see the way you're discovering things, and it feels
Mm,
very free in that way. So now that you describe the process and your mindset, it does give me a really nice context.
thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I like to make it, so it's just fun. It's fun for me.
Yeah,
There's
as it should be, because if you didn't, I would say you're in the wrong business.
yeah. But I know everyone's process is different. Like some people like, they go in with a different mindset, and whatever floats your boat.
Of
So,
course, yes. Like most people in New York and most people in the art world, we're all hyper aware of the market and
yeah.
what's being shown and what's selling perceivably. Ideally, we shouldn't be thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I try as much as I can to forget that that is a part of this when I'm actually working, because it is there, like it's present, and like I especially when you do the kind of the side of being an artist, which is like showing up at like openings, going to see work, you're like in and out of all these spaces, like it's a it's like a given in terms of like how the art world exists today. Um, and but then when I come to the studio, I try to think of it less if I can. And I think it's harder if you have like deadlines or that kind of thing. Like I find that I am making more like risky moves when I have less pressure that way. Which is like part of having, I think for me, like the balance of like a day job. I mean, it makes it functional here. I don't think I could do New York right now without that also, but the pressure of knowing that like okay, like costs are covered, anything I make in the studio, I'm not invested in like if it like like does well, like that kind of like whatever that is when it's like out in the world in terms of like money. To not be concerned with like that being the only way that I'm like surviving, I think takes some of that pressure off it. And it's not completely gone, obviously. Like it's all still there. The idea of it being like seen and it, like the space that it goes to being like a gallery or a fair or something like that. Um, but in the studio, like one tries to be like dead. You know what I mean? Like in the studio, like one tries to not not exist in the eyes of other people, I think.
It's a good way to put it. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
just you in the work.
Yeah.
So in your
Yeah.
work, in terms of imagery, do you have reference images? How do you come up with the ideas?
That's always like the trickiest thing maybe to I I find a lot of images like online or in books or um yeah, just kind of like I also like will take photos myself if I find myself like in like a place where I'm seeing something, that looks like it would be nice to paint. But I'm drawn a lot to like right now, like images of um like maybe like inside of like antique shops or thrift stores or um what is it called? Like estate sales or like these kinds of like arrangements of like lots of things in a space that are I don't know, like in this like kind of like in between like liminal state of like they come from a home or from like they belong to someone at some point and had kind of this like life and like maybe like memories in a different context and are now kind of like in between and being like preferred up to hopefully return to that state of being back in this kind of like more internal setting, but like at that time they're like kind of out in the open and congregated together in this little like aesthetic composition offering. I'm finding those kinds of images to be like really interesting. Um,
Do you feel
yeah.
like there's like an openness to those images because of the ambiguity?
Yeah, I mean I think there's something about like the there's a lot of contrast and I think that interests me because it's things that they feel individually and sometimes also collectively like quite sentimental. They feel like nostalgic or loved or like cherished. Um they they feel like ornamentative in a way that's like a kind of personal expression. And so like there's this kind of personalness to them. And then they're in these spaces and in these arrangements that are kind of like I don't know, like alienating them from that for like a kind of like momentary or like transitional like time as they like are like yanked out of whatever context they had as objects to be like re re-assimilated into someone else's like life, if that makes sense. And that I think there's like a contrast in that, like I
There's like
don't
a
know.
tension there.
Yeah. I haven't thought about it too much, to be honest, in the sense that I'm still making them, and I try not to think too much about why while I'm doing it. But I know that there's something to do with that in it.
So there's not necessarily a specific narrative in these scenes. They're
Mm.
mostly interiors, right? at this point?
Yeah, they're mostly interiors. Yeah. And I think that which like I have folders that have hundreds of these like kinds of images. I'll just like, find them and then I'll look through them. And I don't always know why one or the other, because they're ostensibly like almost the same thing over and over again. But I think that part of it is like a very instinctual, like compositional element, which I also am trying to like sharpen more and like think more about seeing the work that I've been like really hyped about this week. I think that the idea of being like more conscious of composition is really on my mind. I think it's something that will happen like almost unconsciously while I work or something like I'll like I don't know why I do this shape here, for example, but I do, and then afterwards I'll be like, oh, like that makes sense that's how it was. But then sometimes I look at these like paintings, I'm like, how there's like no way this was just like all like spur of the moment. Like you've honed the idea of a composition like over and over and over again and like iterated it so many times to come to this place where like you can't move anything. Like everything has to be where it is. And that quality I really like in a painting. Like it's all just like interlocked together in this way that like leads you through and you can't take any move out or it like wouldn't be what it was. It's all necessary. I don't think my painting is that lean, but I do like that quality.
Almost like a puzzle, the way it fits together,
Mm,
and you're moving
yeah,
through it, and you're sort of guided through paintings. I mean, I think you see that historically in paintings,
yeah.
compositionally, how tight they are. I think the paintings that stand out now are the ones that obviously are, to our eyes, the most successful. Do you look at a lot of historical paintings?
Oh yeah, I would say I mostly look at historical paintings.
Well,
Um, yeah, I think. Or I mean like not that I don't look at paintings that are being made now, but I think that I'm more consistently fed like by like there's not always stuff that is like current that I'm seeing that I'm like, whoa, like there's artists that are contemporary that I follow, but
mhm.
um but when I'm just like going out to look at something because I want to like have a little like lesson in painting, usually I'll go to like a museum with like a historical collection.
What do you gravitate towards in those museums?
Oh man, it changes all the time. Um, it's always interesting to like see where you go and like what changes. I think that the most recent time that I was oh wait, well actually I saw the Vuillard show at I want to say like Scars Stick.
Scarsted.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever said it out loud. Um that was so phenomenal. Like they're so good. Um
That blew me away.
I, yeah,
Yeah,
that was an incredible show.
it was.
Um but I remember like, when I was at the like Met most recently before that, I think that I was like really into the Cézannes, which I don't know if I've had a Cézanne moment before. Like I don't think I have. I feel like I've I mean that's like such a like he's so classic. Like it's like a weird thing to be like I haven't really been like into it. But like there's like artists that like really move you and then there's work that you're like, like I don't know why this just doesn't do it.
Maybe the timing isn't
And
right.
exactly
Yeah.
like the timing isn't right. And this last time I was there, I was like, oh, Cezanne, I get it now.
Yeah, I had a similar thing with Monet recently. Yeah.
Oh shit, you just
Yeah.
had your
Yeah,
Monet?
I had a Monemo. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah. And I'm just like,
man.
I get it. That's why
So
it's good.
I've been like riding my Monet moment for
Your
years.
whole life.
I,
Yeah.
it's forever. Yeah, no,
But
for
it's interesting the
sure.
way in which I think it changes. Like you're interested in different
Yeah,
ways. You can kind
yeah,
of surf Monet through time through your life because like
yeah.
and
Oh
find
yeah.
various very different things, right?
Surfing Monet. Yeah.
He's accessible on that many levels. I think Cezanne
Hmm.
too.
Yeah,
And
100%.
if you're open to it, you can rediscover all this stuff.
Oh, it's the best. It's like the best thing to rediscover when you go and then you're like, wait a minute. Like this is crazy. Like and I love to bring like a sketchbook and just like I'll just like draw the composition and write some things out. And later I'll like look back at my notes and they're always like the green. It's just like exclamation point. You're like, what? Like what was I thinking? But yeah, it's insane. Like the painters are crazy. Like they do these things and I think as a painter when I see paintings I'm I'm like reverse engineering them. I don't know if you do that, but I feel like I'm like running through like oh like what was like what layer went first, like what did the brush stroke like he brought it from here over here and it had caught a little bit of the edge of this because that was still wet and then you can see it like you know what I mean like that kind of you're like watching it be made almost. And then there's things that are just so they're so like revolutionary inside of that like uh I don't know what is it, the scaffolding that's like being built there that you're like how did you jump from this to this crazy mark or this like where did you like get this wild negative space like what like these things that are just I love painters.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about painting is that it's all right there for you to see. You can see
Yeah.
the thought in liquid
Yeah.
form.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. No, it's like it's that it's like action embedded in material. It's like time embedded in material. And then you receive it simultaneously and then you have to let it like go back and unfurl or whatever. Yeah. Which is part of like I think that's like part of the incredible thing is that it's like you look at artists who like they you can see like they spend a lot of time on something but then they just made these decisions where you know it was just like that like it was this pop 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 like that kind of speed and that like reverberates in this way that's so fresh that you see like oh it feels like this person walked out of the room like 10 minutes before I came and hung this piece up on the wall like that kind of contrast is insane.
I had that
Yeah.
sensation. I went to Catherine Bernhardt's show in Canada.
Ah yeah, I still have to go see that.
It's just astounding. It is so, it is. I had the exact sensation that you just described of going in there and
Yeah.
being like, she could have just made this 2 minutes ago, 2 seconds
Yeah.
ago. And it's
Yeah.
such a fun show. It's called Peanut Butter and Jelly.
Oh, that's
And
so
it's
cute. I
it's
love that.
based, it's so you got to see it. It's all based on things in her house. She lives in St. Louis. She's got this place in
Yeah.
St. Louis and she collects art. And so she has all these art objects and there are portraits of people, her sister, her son, and all these people that are in her life, things that she likes, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Jif peanut butter
Yeah.
jars, and all the elements in it that are in her life, but presented in a way that is just utterly fresh and beautiful. And there's something slightly devious about it. I've been thinking about her ever since the last show I saw at Canada, which was Bart Simpson. Did you see that show? It was all Bart Simpson with mushrooms, and he had his pants down, mooning the viewer in most of the paintings. Day glow, just bright, almost obscene colors. It's like everything you're not supposed to do.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's done in such a free way, in such a beautiful way that it just sings.
It's so like permission giving when you see work like that. Like there's something about it that it feels like, oh yeah, like I can like the wildest thing that you can do can be done like so like beautifully. Like it's in it's the how, not the what, or something like that, if that makes sense.
There's really something to the way of communication of painting, utterly unlike anything else. And I think there's the
Mm.
reason why painting has existed since we were living in caves and will continue
Hmm.
to exist as long as we're still the same species.
Yeah. I mean, and communicate is like such a loose because I think that one of the things that I'm always like pretty adamant about is that paintings also like they also don't communicate. Like they're also like they can be quite like mute or like quite um like stubborn in terms of like that. I mean, then, and this is like kind of like pulling apart the idea of communication, but there's a way in which they also refuse, I think. Like they refuse to be reduced, they refuse to be
Mm.
um like explained or like defined because it is something outside of language. It's a visual language and it's not like it's a different syntax than like what we're using. Like there's not an equivalent kind of like translation. Yeah. I think maybe that's
Mm.
the difference. Like I think that painting resists translation. And
Yeah.
maybe communication doesn't need translation. Maybe communication is something that is like received emotionally or received um like you know through some other kind of like it can make you like happy. It can like just bring a sense of like awe or something or like get you like hyped about something technical or like whatever that is like I think some paintings have like narrative or something but a lot of painting, especially the kind of painting that I think I'm interested in, it it yeah, it refuses to be translated and it has this way in which it like asserts that it is a material and it is an object and there's not like a way to like take that and transcribe it into something else. It would no longer be that thing.
So it's anti-specific narrative
My view is
in a
anti-specific
sense,
narrative.
right?
I get okay, I guess
Right.
so.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
okay.
I try not to box myself because I'm not like gonna see something that has a narrative and dismiss it because there is one. You know what I mean? Like it's not that. But I find that in general my taste is towards paintings that hold the line between a kind of like offering a sense of like interpretation and offering a sense of being irrefutably like a material object that has its own like properties and its own um like sense of being that I won't access ever, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Yeah.
Almost as if the painting itself is an entity, a conscious entity.
Well, I don't know if I'd say conscious entity, but like it is like it's canvas and it's pigment and it's pigment on the surface of canvas and it's a brush mark and like it's things like that where it is also maybe a flower or a hand or a dress, but it when you look at it for long enough, it like wavers between those things so much you can't say it's like just one or the other. I think that's one of the things that like I love about painting is that it's while it shows something, it also is something else. And that contrast is kind of like a really mysterious and like you can't resolve that, you
It's
know?
both at once. It's both an image
It's
and an
both. Yeah.
object, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is I mean, it's like the essential painting is the image and the object. And speaking of like a certain type of painting, but yeah, I love it.
That what you just described really describes the reason why I think painting and art in general is so important because of the nuance,
Hmm.
because it's both at once, because you can't resolve
Hmm.
it, because you
Yeah.
can't say this is an image, this is factually just an image, this is
Yeah.
just an object, because it is
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
And there's something really beautiful and important in this liminal space that in my opinion, is much deeper than just the painting. It's not just about art. It reverberates into the
Mm-hmm.
culture, and it always has, because it
Mm-hmm.
keeps the culture from stagnating
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in that way that
Yeah.
you can see physically, tangibly, that there is nuance, that this
Yeah.
is proof that things are not always as they seem, and that things
Yeah.
can be more than just one thing.
Yeah. I think that they in that way where they are not one thing and that they can't be like explained in a way that like settles them, they resist time. And I think that they give us something through that like long extension of time where we can like come back to a painting over and over again and understand it, but in that way understand ourselves differently, like over and over. And so it's kind of like yeah, something in the way that they resist time, I think is part of what they give us. They have like an unexhaustible output, which is like a very different kind of way of relating to something. Like if I have a pencil, I know that like I draw with the pencil and I use the pencil and it eventually I sharpen it and sharpen it every time I need it to be even every time I need it to give me what the pencil does, I sharpen it and eventually it comes down to the very end and like I can't use it anymore. And a painting isn't like that, and that the thing that you get from it, it never stops giving it to you unless you destroy it, you know. But I don't take away from the painting by looking at it. Like I don't the painting doesn't have less to offer me because I look at it. It has something different to offer me when I come back to it. And so there's no like it doesn't actually eat away at itself in that sense.
You consume it, but you don't consume it physically.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, basically like I think the consumption of a painting doesn't like deplete the painting if the painting is like resisting time in that way.
Wow. I never really thought
Yeah.
about that way. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah. And it is something that when you come back to it, it changes you, but then you
Mhm.
go off and you come back. When you come back to it, you're a different person. So
Yeah.
you have this ongoing relationship with the painting that you might have in a similar way that you have with a person, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Yeah, like a person. Except it's such a one-sided like dialogue, I think, in that there's so much projection that you like put on the painting. Not that it's one-sided, it's doing its thing, but it's not like like words, you know? Like I think that's a it's like mysterious quiet friend.
But it works
Yeah.
on you, right?
Yeah, oh,
There's
it definitely works on you. Yeah. Yeah, it does something. Yeah, it changes you. It's an interesting thing. I feel like when you see work that like really moves you, you're changed. Yeah.
yeah, I think that the best painting is I can't even say the best. I feel like a dope even saying like making a such a such a
Yeah.
judgment call
No,
like
it's
that. But
it's it's hard
for
to like
me,
use
yeah,
extreme language like that when
yeah,
you talk about painting.
yeah, exactly. But you can, for me, the most impactful paintings are the ones that sort of snuck up on me, right?
Mm,
You don't expect it. All
hmm
of a sudden you're thinking about it and it's sort of embedded its way. This series that I'm working on now, based on these Annunciation paintings, I went to
hmm
the Met and I wasn't even really trying. This is over a year ago now, and I wasn't really intending to go to the Northern Renaissance section, but I was my mom and my aunt were visiting, so I was like, oh, let's go see some old paintings, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we're
yeah.
popping by this Hans Memling Annunciation, and I'm just blown away for some
Yeah.
reason. I'd seen it before, but I'm just like, what is going on there? There's not a bad move in that painting.
Oh man, talk about weird paintings. Like those old ones, they're doing crazy things.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're
Right and left.
just it's the slowest painting I think
Oh
that
yeah.
I can think of.
And it's like I don't know, some of those are like trippy. Like they're like you're looking at them and you can like feel the bubonic plague, or you know what I mean? You're like, damn, things were dire. Like there
Yeah.
was some crazy shit happening back then.
Oh
And
yeah.
you could like
Yeah.
feel it. You could feel it.
You could
Yeah.
feel it. It's embedded into those paintings.
Oh, it's
You look at
completely embedded.
that
Like
Van
they're
Eyck.
they're kind of like horrific, some of them.
Yeah,
Even the
they're
most like
hyper real
gentle,
too.
yeah, gentle scenes, but like there's a deep horror in them.
Yes. Do you know the
Yeah.
Petrus Christus painting of the Deposition of Christ? That like the flesh is he's got the dead Christ. And if
Oh,
you've seen the Judgment, the
I
Van
think
Eyck,
so.
I'm sure you see it. There's like
Oh yeah.
it's like the most metal painting in the Met. It's got this skeleton
It's
devil
crazy.
form, and there's a
Yeah,
hellfires, and then on top there's
yeah.
like the heavenly scene. It's a small painting.
Wow.
It's the last judgment, and it
Yeah.
is just gnarly, and there's all this crazy stuff going on. There's like a Boschian element in that
Oh
painting.
man.
Some of those paintings are just so, they're hyper real too.
Yeah.
And there's really something, you feel it viscerally looking at these
Yeah.
paintings, and they've been doing this for hundreds of years, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
and they it's
That's
amazing.
unbelievable.
Yeah. They have that power, and they still hold that power, and they can still work long after the painter is dead. He's still
Yeah,
communicating.
completely. Yeah, and I feel like those also just have like the most insane like senses of like perspective and like just like the sizes of things, like the scale, like there's some really crazy stuff happening that just like make them like so enjoyable.
They're so beautiful. Those paintings are,
Yeah.
often people will say when I talk about those paintings, that they didn't understand perspective, and I just, that makes me kind of insane to hear that, because clearly the sophistication of these painters is
Yeah.
the most extreme that
Yeah.
maybe ever in the, in the history of painting. Maybe a better way to put that is to say that they weren't intending to use perspective in the way that later Renaissance painters, the Italian Renaissance painters,
Yeah.
were doing, and that the worldview was different for one, but also that the point of these paintings was to, they all have, for the most part, have a very specific narrative, and
Hmm.
so they have to fit this narrative into the picture plane. The way that they could paint it was like, it's real. You could touch it, you could feel it,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
textures. You're in that world.
Oh, completely. Yeah, they've like really built it out. I think yeah, I think that one of the things like as a person viewing art that you have to like continually like remind yourself of is not to bring like the criteria that you like of your contemporary mind to the thing, but rather to like understand what what the thing is giving you to like step into. If that, yeah.
That's it. That's exactly
You,
right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, we look at them from a somewhat revisionist lens, I might say,
Yeah,
right?
completely. Yeah.
It's easy to go back and judge something based on your own principles. You judge things based on what your own context, and that's very
Hmm.
difficult not to do, because all we have is our own context, but
Yeah.
if you can
Yeah.
try and step out of it for a minute
Yeah.
and try and see things like they might have seen things, or just to understand what was being communicated there in the painting.
Hmm.
I think we're in this a very similar mindset. If you look around from even like the 50s and the 60s, that model of this modernist, in the system in which we're in, the gallery system, the way in which
Yeah.
we produce works, even on a subconscious level, unconsciously, for the market,
Yeah.
it's not really about the same kind of connection. I mean, there is connection. There's a lot of great energy in terms of what's being made and being produced, but the market is very much a huge force in all this. Have you read that,
Yeah.
Josh? Did you read that Josh Klein article?
No, Jonathan and I were talking about it today. He like brought it up because we were talking about the stuff that I have coming up, and I use the phrase like he was like you could show like you could give something that you've like shown before, and I was like, well, I don't know if I want to show old work. He was like, you made that like last year, like why how is it old? And he's like, you have to read the article, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll read it. But yeah, it is a crazy thing to, I mean, just that aspect of like um the current time that we live in treats paintings in a way like they expire, or like treats art objects in a way like they expire, and that's, I can't imagine that being like a, like a thing like however long ago, this idea of like, oh, you made that like a year ago, like that's old work now, people have seen it, oh, you posted it on Instagram, like it's old now, like you have to make something else, like that kind of, like it goes against everything that I was saying about like a painting, like you consume it and it has like infinite, like it doesn't, like you take nothing from it when you see it, you know. um
It's timeless,
but it's,
essentially.
yeah, it is, but we have placed them in a context that kind of like treats them like you know like produce or something.
Like everything else in the culture, it's fast, right?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
fast food, fast fashion, fast art,
Mm.
and that's a great point you make that if something is like a year old, you tend to think it's expired or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Like there's something about like re-showing a work or about, yeah, like, oh, I mean, and I understand it from the perspective of like, I think that the things that I'm making now are like better than the things that I was making before because I'm hopefully constantly improving as a painter. And in that sense, I think is kind of like what I meant by like I don't want to show like an older thing. Like I think I'm doing something now that I'm more more invested in, maybe. But maybe that's like also just a byproduct of whatever that is that we move through things more quickly or yeah.
It's remarkable that you have the insight to see that, though, to question that and to say, hey, maybe the way I'm working is indeed a direct product, a result of the culture that I'm in, that because I'm
Mhm.
in a fast culture, that a thing I made a year ago seems old to me, but actually it's quite valid, or perhaps it
Yeah.
is. But we all like to think we're improving and putting our best work forward
Yeah.
at the time, but that is a rare insight. Most people will be like, "Oh yeah, that's old." You wouldn't question it. It's just so difficult to see.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I feel lucky in that I have um people that I talk to about painting, like friends, and I'll be like, I don't know if I like this painting anymore, like something like that, and they're like, shut up, like just give it time. Like you don't understand it yet. Like it needs time. Like it needs time to in 10 years, like you'll look at something that you made, and it will strike you differently, and maybe you'll finally understand something about it, or like yeah, I find like sometimes when I look back at work, there's things that I did that are like what I'm doing now, but I did like one thing. Like I painted like one painting and moved on to something else when I was like in my 20s or something. And then I like will find like these images and be like, oh, wait, I like did what I'm doing already and I like moved immediately past it and like didn't stop. And that's like such a strange, you know what I mean? Like that feeling of it is such an opportunity to like slow down and to like hone something and to have such a different kind of relationship to time and to ourselves than we like do in like so many other contexts, like being in the studio and like to kind of, I don't know, to to not let things like pull you away from that, to like treat it how it's really rare. I mean, not everybody has this. It's like a very fortunate thing to be an artist.
It's the best thing ever. We're so
Yeah.
lucky. But
Yeah.
then also, indeed, living in New York, it's especially difficult because I mean the rent's so high. And this was Josh
Yeah.
Klein's point. Back to Josh Klein real
Yeah.
quick. That was his point: is that artists can't have strong, courageous practices. There can be no new movements because the rent is too damn high, and you can't. How are you going to make it
Mm,
work? You have to have three jobs or whatever. You got to work full time, 9 to 5, and when are you going to be able to make art? Let alone having a practice that's thoughtful and you give it time. How can you give it
mhm.
time? So that's kind of the struggle living here. How do you slow it
Yeah.
down?
Oh, completely. Yeah. Yeah, I think here in particular it is that like I didn't feel that as much when I was in Minneapolis and I'm happy to be here. But I do like recognize that now that I'm back.
But it also
There
can be
there
quite
is that.
inspiring, though. You
Oh,
work with these
completely.
incredible artists. Like we're having this conversation. We're talking
Yeah.
about deep, important things in terms of being an artist in the art world. You have friends that are making art. You're just tapping into the creative energy just being here too.
Yeah. No, there's everything. It is. I think when we were starting the conversation, you said it's all a negotiation. Like it is like that kind of like full circle. Yeah, like what do you need at a given time? Because I think that there will be periods of time probably. I don't imagine that I'll be here forever. And in this moment, this is what I need. And maybe later on I'll be like a little hermit somewhere, just like painting quietly in like a cabin in the woods or something.
You could pull like a Catherine Bernhardt, be here for a number of years, get your career going, and then move to some cool little
Yeah.
spot in the Midwest, and
Yeah. That's pretty ideal. That's
yeah,
pretty ideal.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so, and then and
Yeah.
I did think about your work a lot actually at that Catherine Bernhardt show because I think
Oh, wow.
you have a quality of there's a spontaneity
Mm,
and a levity and a freshness in your work that you both have. Now it makes more sense the way you've talked about painting and how you approach it, the way you feel when you get into a painting, like, oh, I forgot how to paint. Like, forget it's a really having that beginner's mind is a real
yeah.
asset, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. What are my gallerist sometimes uses the term, she says, she calls it looking at things with baby eyes or something like that. But like when you see the world like really like sometimes like things are like just reduced to like relationships of like color and shape, and you're like, whoa, like this is what I'm, you're like in that painting and that's all that it is. And like they're not, it's not even like you're painting objects, you're just painting like colors and shapes interlocking, and like that's completely where your mind is. And yeah, she calls it baby eyes. And I really like that.
I could see that, or almost like you just woke up or something and
Yeah, yeah,
everything's just
yeah.
shapes and colors.
The sleepy, yeah,
And that's
sleepy eyes
good.
too.
That's
Yeah.
good. But you're immersed in this scene. It's still a tangible
Mm-hmm.
place, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still painting. I think you really ride the line between object and image in such a cool way. Being an artist is really so much about the conversations you have with other artists
Mm.
and the connection
Yeah.
there and the studio visits
Oh,
and
100%.
exchanging ideas. And I had a friend come over the other day and he was like, "Oh yeah, this I'm surprised you didn't like work in some Eastern stuff in your work." And I was like, "Yeah, Eastern stuff." I was at a time I was basically coming to the end of this series that I'm working on now
Yeah.
and realizing, oh yeah, it does need that. But
Hmm.
I guess I'm getting off track. But my point was is that even just a brief visit, having another consciousness perceive your work does, I think it
Hmm.
changes it. It changes it.
Yeah. It's yeah, it's inspiring having like friends by. I feel lucky in like that. Yeah, like being back here is so rich with so many people who are like really excited about their practices and what they're doing and like want to have those kinds of like exchanges. And I think like all the other things about like, you know, the intensity of kind of just like making it in New York aside, that is like such a beautiful part of being here.
Truly,
Yeah.
truly, and
Yeah.
it's been wonderful seeing your process and progress. And
Thank you. Yeah.
so before we go, I wonder if you do you have anything coming up you want to talk about?
Oh, I mean, I'm kind of, what am I doing? I have a piece in a show that opens at the end of the month in Minneapolis. I don't have anything coming up in New York um right now, but I'll have work in a fair in Houston, like Untitled Houston, end of the summer, and then like some other things I think we're like waiting to hear back. Um, but yeah, nothing crazy. I'm kind of with hair and nails.
With hair and nails,
Yeah, with hair and nails.
it's nice that there are small galleries that are surviving.
Yeah. Oh, they're incredible. They're so um they have so much heart in like everything they do, and they're such like humanistic people. Like they love their artists, and they like have their you know like values in the right places kind of. You know what I mean? Like they just feel like truly kind people who believe in what they're doing and are like they're scrappy and resourceful and they're crazy and we love them. They're mama and papa in a way, you know, like they're it's a little family.
We need
Yeah,
more of that in the world.
yeah, for sure. No, they're the best.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for meeting today. Is there
Of
anything else you'd like
course.
to add
Thank
before
you
we
so
go?
much. I trust that making making work that is like something that I believe in eventually will go somewhere, you know?
And it's also it's there's no there, as Gertrude Stein said famously.
Mm, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just
This is there in a
this is
way.
it. This is it.
Yeah.
It's just this. There's no,
Yeah.
and that's hard because we're trained in the culture to think of an objective and
Yeah.
we're like a goal-driven culture. And
Yeah.
when you let go of that, or at least try to, or at least be conscious of really in the moment,
Yeah.
that stuff kind of falls away. And then ideally, I mean, it happens when you're painting, certainly.
That's the thing that is exactly like where you get when you're painting. And that's like it's so like replenishing. Like it kind of like brings you back and like it everything kind of falls into place and like you see the scale of things in that.
Yeah, it really puts everything in your life in perspective.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
it's such
completely.
a gift to have that. And we're
It's
so
such a
lucky. You got to hold on to that.
yeah,
And
$100%.
that's it. It's
Yeah.
not it's not about making I mean, you're making a thing. There's like the byproduct of your
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
There is a tangible object there,
Yeah.
but the best stuff happens, I think, that you weren't even expecting, in the
Mm,
process, in the studio.
yeah.
Those
Yeah.
things are, you can't even say what they are or what's happening, but it slows down your consciousness. And
Yeah, for sure.
honestly, like I said before, the only thing that's keeping me from completely losing my all my attention is painting.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I think that like I start to get like really like I don't know, like really like easily like flustered by like life and by you know what I mean? Like my threshold is so much lower when I'm not painting consistently. And like small things like make me like, oh, like so like it's like this irritation feeling of just like kind of being like a little like raw baby thing against like the rough like intensity of the world. Kind of, you know, like that feeling, like everything is just kind of like, ooh,
Like you're
like
not grounded or
aggravating.
centered.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think painting is that and it kind of it builds up like a sort of little buffer to pull from as you move through the day or something.
Not just the work itself, but your consciousness ripples outward. So
Mm,
having a more grounded and stable and present consciousness, which is sort of assisted by painting, that this being like the centering thing is clearly beneficial, not just for you, but for people around you.
the one like maybe positive thing about like things becoming more less like you know more AI-ish, maybe people will start painting more because they'll have
Mm.
more free time.
That makes me recall there's a Star Trek The Next Generation episode where I'm not sure if you're familiar with the show. They go to this planet.
Oh yeah.
It's just one of my favorite shows of all time. But they go to this planet called Aldea, and it's kind of a clunky episode because it's season one or two.
Uh-huh.
And the idea is it's like a fabled planet they don't think actually exists, but then they find it, and it's all these little kids. Everybody in the culture makes art. They make
Oh,
music or painting, and they're all
yeah.
trained from a young age. And they're all that is the focus. The culture has become, or the society has become so quote perfect
Yeah.
that everybody can just focus on their free time, all their free time on their creative pursuits.
Ah, that sounds beautiful. I feel like that's kind of the there. That's the there is like the planet where like all the free time. Yeah.
Painting Planet, yeah,
Yeah, painting
yeah,
planet.
yeah,
That's
but
where we're
that
going.
is there. I guess that is the
Yeah.
ideal, like as a culture.
Yeah.
But we sort of see it. I guess we're kind of doing it in microcosm. You're
Mm,
creating the world in which you would like to exist.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think like the effort that goes into carving out and protecting that is also it's kind of like going to the gym or something and like oh like I use the little like weight and then I can like add more weight. It's like a thing that you like build up like a resistance, like a little active resistance or something. And you're strengthening like your ability to like protect and make that time. And that in and of itself is a kind of a beautiful labor,
Yes,
you know?
the act of doing it
Yeah.
and the gesture of
Yeah.
putting this time, investing this time
Yeah.
into
Because
this thing.
we could put our time like anywhere, you know, like there's infinite things that are clamoring for our time that are like asking for how like our attention and our time. And that's kind of like constant and to I think to like quiet and to really actively choose this is a yeah in and of itself is like a beautiful thing.
Right. Like, why make a painting?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. People ask that all the time.
It's one of those things where it has to be more important, clearly, than anything else.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It
And it
is.
is.
It is. And it is.
And it is. And it is. Yes. Yes, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, it has to be, otherwise it'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, but you could say that about everything. The nice thing about painting is that there's a record of it, that it's
Mm,
clearly, you can see your investment.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
can feel your investment in the process,
Hmm.
in the thing. And you're really held accountable for that time
Mm, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
because it can be
There's
seen.
a record. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, Julia, thanks.
This was lovely. Yeah,
Thanks
thank
so
you
much.
so
This was
much.
really good. I really
Yeah.
appreciate your time.
No, me too. Thank you, Dan.